you can see that it's coming around and moving to that view that we set the camera up. So we can hit stop. Now if we go back to our other one, what have we got here? Camera start. So we've got those things. We need to draw a box and a collision field. So we should come back down to the other one and now draw some of those. So if I hold down the middle mouse key, so the scroll wheel, I can pan around. And if I hold down the option Alt key and the middle mouse key, I can sort of rotate around. So we can get a better view to draw what we want. So now I want a box that can rotate, so I'll just quickly come over here and draw a box. That's fine for us. So we want to add an animation to that. So add, so object animation, rotate. And we want to make it so it's triggered. So come down and set it to triggered. 5 seconds is fine. You can adjust that. Action continuous loop. We want to set that to reverse at ends. And some of these just trial and error to see what happens. So reverse at ends. And rather than 360 degrees, I'm just going to set down this to be quite subtle. So 10 degrees. So we've now set up a box that will rotate. We need to set up a collision field. So what I recommend doing is coming in here and drawing something out of the way. So we're going to draw a little box here, and then we need to adjust it. And if we are careful about where we mouse over, so I can mouse over, I want to adjust this, and you can see the green arrow there highlights and then come back to the white bar, and then I can just click and drag and it will rotate around, and I'll just sort of get it up close to vertical, and then I can click on the blue arrow to bring it up into the right place, and then move it over. And what I would recommend doing is just for while you're working is set an opacity. So we want to come and do that under alterations. So we want to insert and then come down and find, what have we got? Is there opacity somewhere? I want to add an opacity. Transformations? No. Let's see if we can find colors. No. See if we can, opacity. There's opacity there. So we can click on opacity and we can set that even down a bit further, say 20. So we can see it. And what we can actually do when we're finished is turn under the properties, turn that off. So it won't render. So that's saving us processing power in the final model or scene once we get going. But for now I'll leave it on to make sure it works. So we can see what we're doing. So under animations, we need to add an animation. So we'll just go back and check what we need to add. So collision field, trigger animation. So we can go and find that. So go back to the other one. Just before we do that, rather than plain one, we'll call it underscore 01. Try not to use any spaces or funny characters. So collision 01, so we know that one is what we want to do. So under animations we want to add, we've got triggers, trigger animation. So now to activate we want to set that to collision, and the object that we want it to start or trigger is our box. So we've got two options. We can either drag down and select, and this is where naming becomes really critical, or we can click pick and come over here and pick the object. So we can just sort of select it, and we can trigger, we can have multiple animations on objects. So if we want to just trigger one by collision we can. So I'm just going to set it to that rotate. So we should quickly test this. So we push play, so it comes down into that view, and if I use the W I can start walking around, and then now you can see very subtly, but going through that field, it has triggered that animation. So if we stop that, let's make it a bit more exciting. Go back to the box, rotate, and make it 720 degrees. And we'll try with our collision field under properties to turn it off. So if we click play now, so we can't see our collision field, but if we start walking forward, hopefully walking forward, so I just clicked in the box and then walk forward, you can see it's rotating around. So we've saved the memory a little bit by not having to draw it, so we can turn it off later. So just to remember that where those are. I hope that is helpful. And to also test the publishing, so under publish user file, and there's a video on the blog that goes over it with that more detail, so to follow that. And remember to save often, so I'll save that right now. So rotate, I'll call it trigger test, save. And there's a great feature in Esperient Creator, which is a save increment name. So every now and then, rather than having one file, have a number of files, so if something gets corrupted you can go back. So if I just click that, it saves again, and you can see it's now trigger test 01, and it keeps just adding another file, which is really useful to have that in what you're doing.